The first time Natalie saw the alien, she almost dropped her coffee mug. The creature stood nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shifted colors like an opal in sunlight, long, graceful limbs and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. Everyone else in the research facility froze as well. This was first contact, the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. "My name is Zyra," said the alien, her voice somehow inside Natalie's head rather than in the air. "I come from the Kelfarian Alliance. We have been watching your world." Natalie stepped forward while others remained frozen in shock. As the lead xenobiologist, she had trained for this moment, even if no training could truly prepare anyone. "Welcome to Earth, Zyra," she said, keeping her voice steady, despite her racing heart. "I am Natalie. We are honored by your visit." The alien tilted her head, studying Natalie with those incredible eyes that swirled with colors no human had ever seen before. "You are not afraid?" said Zyra, sounding surprised. "Most species fear what is different." Natalie smiled slightly. "Humans can be afraid too, but we are also curious. Our desire to learn often overcomes our fear." This seemed to please the alien, who moved closer, her movements fluid like water in low gravity. The other researchers backed away, but Natalie held her ground. "Your species interests us," said Zyra. "You are young compared to others in the galaxy, primitive in some ways, yet advanced in others. You create art, you explore, you feel deeply. We have been observing." The implications of those words sent a shiver down Natalie's spine. Aliens had been watching humanity perhaps for generations, but she kept her focus on the diplomatic opportunity rather than the unsettling thought. "What brings you to Earth?" Now Natalie asked. "Why reveal yourselves after all this time of watching?" Zyra gestured with long fingers that seemed to have one too many joints. "Necessity," the Kelfarian said. "The galaxy faces a threat, one that requires cooperation among all spacefaring species. We have come to extend an invitation." Over the next hours, as government officials arrived and security protocols activated, Natalie remained the primary contact with Zyra. The alien seemed to prefer her, perhaps sensing her genuine curiosity and openness. Zyra explained that her species came from a world orbiting a star, 300 light-years from Earth. The Kelfarians had been traveling space for thousands of years, building alliances with other intelligent species, creating a network of cooperation across the stars. But now they faced an enemy. They called the Void Eaters, beings that consumed energy and matter alike, leaving dead systems in their wake. "They will reach your solar system within 50 of your years," Zyra explained. As they sat in the hastily prepared conference room, "We offer an exchange of knowledge technology that will help your people survive." The government officials looked skeptical, with tense whispers and furrowed brows. But Natalie saw opportunity, not just for survival, but for advancement beyond anything humanity could achieve alone. "What would you want in exchange?" she asked. Before any of the officials could speak, knowing that no advanced species would offer such gifts freely, Zyra's color rippled with what Natalie was beginning to recognize as approval. "Human," she said simply. "We need human minds, your creativity, your unpredictability, your ability to find solutions where logical species see none. This is unique among the stars." The room erupted in worried murmurs, but Natalie understood immediately. The alien wasn't asking for test subjects or slaves. Zyra wanted human allies, partners in whatever conflict was coming. "How many humans?" asked Natalie. "Volunteers only," replied Zyra. 1,000 perhaps, to join our fleet to help plan our strategy against the Void Eaters. Your species thinks differently than any we have encountered." The military general scoffed. "Impossible," he said. "We can send our people into space with beings we just met on promises of some cosmic threat we can't verify." Zyra's colors darkened slightly, and what Natalie guessed might be disappointment. "We anticipated doubt," said the alien. "We offer proof and time to decide. 10 of your people may visit our vessel in orbit, see our technology, meet other species from our alliance, then return to share what they have learned." The officials began arguing among themselves about security risks and protocols, but Natalie stepped closer to Zyra. "I volunteered to go," she said, loud enough to silence the room. "I want to see." Zyra turned those galaxy eyes toward her. "You are brave, Natalie of Earth," she said. "Your curiosity serves your species well. Others will be like you." "This is why we came." Later that night, as Natalie packed a small bag for what might be humankind's first journey to an alien spacecraft, she wondered if she was being foolish, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. but something about Zira felt trustworthy despite her alien nature. Perhaps it was the way she spoke directly without deception, or perhaps it was just Natalie's desperate hope that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. Her phone rang. It was Elena, her fellow researcher and closest friend. "Are you really going?" Elena asked, her voice tight with worry. "We know nothing about them. They could be harvesting us for all we know." Natalie smiled at her friend's concern. "If they wanted to harm us, they have technology that could have done it without introducing themselves." She said logically, "I think this is genuine, and someone has to go." Elena was silent for a moment. "Just come back," she finally said. "I want a full report on alien biology, especially reproductive systems." Natalie laughed, promising she would observe everything she could, the tension broken by scientific curiosity, their shared language. The next morning, 9 other scientists and specialists joined Natalie at the landing site, where a shuttle from Zira's ship would arrive. Hearts pounding with anticipation and fear, the group watched the sky. This is how it begins, Natalie thought as a silver craft appeared silently above them. Humanity's next great adventure among the stars. The shuttle landed gracefully without engines or visible propulsion. Zira emerged and gestured toward the open door. "Come," she said, "into their minds, see our home and decide if yours is worth saving." Natalie took a deep breath and stepped forward toward whatever waited beyond Earth. The ship was beyond anything Natalie could have imagined, a structure so vast it seemed impossible that it could move through space corridors, curved in ways that made her eyes hurt, with walls that seemed alive, pulsing with soft light and changing. Color Sira led the 10 humans through this impossible geometry, explaining that the vessel housed over 5,000 Kelfarians and representatives from 12 other species, all part of the Alliance. "You are the youngest species we have invited," said Zira. "Most take thousands of years longer to develop the mental capacity for space travel." One of the military officers in their group, Colonel Laura, raised an eyebrow. "Is that a compliment, or are you saying we're underdeveloped?" she asked. Zira shifted colors in what Natalie was beginning to recognize as amusement. "Neither. It is an observation that interests us. You achieve quickly what takes others much longer. Your minds work differently. This is why we need you." They entered a vast chamber where various alien beings moved about, engaged in activities Natalie could not comprehend. Some floated through the air without technology. Others seemed to phase in and out of visibility. All were wildly different from humans or Kelfarians. "This is the gathering hall," said Zira, "where Alliance members share knowledge and culture." Natalie noticed how the other aliens stopped to stare at the humans, curiosity evident even on their utterly foreign faces. "Are we the first humans they have seen?" she asked. Zira nodded. "The first to meet the Alliance officially, though we have observed your kind for generations." A smaller alien approached them, moving like a collection of floating orbs connected by threads of light. It communicated with Zira in sounds like crystal bells. "This is Lithera," said Zira. "A scientific mind like yours, Natalie. She wishes to speak with you." The floating orb being hovered closer, and suddenly Natalie felt thoughts not her own filtering into her consciousness. "Your species creates art for no purpose beyond emotion. This fascinates us," came the thought voice of Lithera. "Can you explain this compulsion?" Natalie smiled, looking at the beautiful alien being. "Art helps us process our experiences," she explained, mentally surprised at how easily this telepathic communication came to her. "It helps us share feelings that words cannot express, and sometimes we create simply for the joy of creation." The alien seemed to pulse with excitement, its orbs spinning faster. "Inefficient yet beautiful," came the response. "Much like your species, we have much to learn from each other." Over the next hours, Natalie and the other humans were introduced to more Alliance members, some so alien that Natalie could barely comprehend their forms or modes of communication. Yet all seemed genuinely interested in humans, asking questions about Earth culture, emotions, and human creativity. Ree eventually led them to what she called the viewing chamber, a room with no visible walls, only stars surrounding them in all directions as if they floated in space itself. In the center of the room, a 3-dimensional projection showed a mass of darkness moving between stars. "The Void Eaters," said Zira, her colors darkening to deep purple. "They consume energy. In all forms, stars, planets, life, they leave nothing." Natalie watched as the projection showed a star system much like Earth's being enveloped by the darkness, the sun dimming and planets turning cold. "How do you fight something like that?" asked Colonel Laura, her military mind already analyzing the threat. "We cannot with conventional weapons," said Zira. "They absorb energy attacks and grow stronger. Technology alone cannot defeat them. This is why we seek minds that think differently, species that can imagine new solutions." A taller alien with skin like polished bronze approached, joining their conversation. "The Kelfarians believe your species has potential," said this new alien in a voice that sounded like several people speaking together. "I remain unconvinced." Zyra introduced the newcomer as Krell, a representative of the Avorian collective. "One of the oldest species in the Alliance, humans are unpredictable," said Zyra to Krell. "They see patterns we miss. They create where we only analyze." Natalie felt the weight of judgment from the Avorian as it studied the humans with eyes that looked like spinning galaxies. "Prove." It then said Krell directly to Natalie. "Show us this human creativity." Without warning, the room changed, the stars disappearing, replaced by a simulation. A small space vessel trapped between the approaching void and a massive gravitational well. "With no apparent escape, this is a tactical scenario," said Krell. "We have run it through our most advanced computing systems. There is no solution save the logic of sacrifice yet. The Kelfarians insist humans might see differently." Natalie studied the simulation, understanding the test for what it was. The Avorian expected failure, wanted it even to prove humans weren't ready for the Alliance. She stepped closer, examining the scenario. The void creatures, the gravity. Well, the ship herself. The others watched in silence as she walked around the projection, looking at it from all angles. "Wait," she said suddenly. "There is a pattern. Here the void doesn't consume randomly. It follows energy signatures like a predator following scent." She pointed to the movement of the darkness, how it pursued the highest energy outputs first. The ship could release its fuel cells in a scattered pattern. She continued, drawing the attention of the void while using the gravity well itself to slingshot away. The momentum would carry the ship even without power, until it was beyond the void. "Sensors," Colonel Laura stepped forward, nodding. "And if we added decoys broadcasting false energy signatures, we could create a path of breadcrumbs leading the void into the gravity." "Well," she added. Krell made a sound like breaking glass. "This solution was not in our calculations," it said. Zira rippled with colors that Natalie interpreted as satisfaction. "This is why we need humans," she said to Krell. "They see possibilities where we see only facts." The Avorian studied the humans with new interest. "Perhaps there is potential here," it acknowledged, "but potential is not proof we shall see what these humans truly offer." When facing the real void, Natalie felt a chill at these words, understanding that this was only the beginning of whatever test the Alliance had planned for humanity. Later, as the humans were shown to quarters prepared for their temporary stay, Natalie found herself alone with Zyra. "Why choose Earth?" she asked. "There must be other creative species in the galaxy." Zyra shifted colors in what seemed like hesitation. "There were," said the alien, quietly, "others with your gift of imagination, but they destroyed themselves before reaching the stars. Your kind is rare, Natalie of Earth. Those who develop technology without losing creativity, who advance without self-destruction. Such species are precious few." The implication was clear. Humanity was walking a knife edge between greatness and extinction. The Alliance had found them just in time. Natalie looked out at the stars visible through the living walls of her quarters, wondering if Earth would survive what was coming and what role she would play in that future. 3 days aboard the Alliance vessel had changed Natalie in ways she could barely articulate. Her mind expanded by technologies and concepts that humanity had never imagined. Each alien species brought unique perspectives and abilities. Some communicated through color changes, others through electromagnetic pulses or chemical releases. The human delegation had split up, each specialist paired with different Alliance members to learn and share. Colonel Laura worked with military strategists while the engineers examined propulsion systems that seemed to bend physics itself. Natalie spent most of her time with Zira and the Science Council, learning about the biology of the Void Eaters, creatures that existed partially outside normal space-consuming Energy across dimensions. This sample was recovered from a dead void. Scout said Zyra, showing Natalie a container that seemed to hold nothing but shadows moving of their own accord. They leave traces behind when they feed. Natalie studied the sample. Fascinated and terrified, she had learned enough to understand how advanced the Alliance truly was. Yet even they feared these creatures. The Void Eaters seem almost designed to consume life. She observed, what if they were created rather than evolved? Zyra rippled with surprise, her colors shifting to an urgent purple. What makes you suggest this, she asked. Natalie explained her reasoning, pointing out patterns in the void behavior that seemed too perfect, too specialized to have developed naturally. Your species jumps to conclusions without sufficient data, said Zyra, but her tone conveyed interest rather than dismissal. This intuitive thinking, this is valuable. As they continued their research, Natalie began to notice subtle tensions within the Alliance. Not all species agreed on how to fight the void. Some advocated for aggressive expansion, building weapons of unimaginable power, while others sought defensive strategies or even attempted communication with the void entities. Most concerning was the faction led by the Avorians, who suggested sacrificing younger civilizations, including Earth, as distractions to buy time for the elder races. Zyra assured Natalie that such proposals would never be approved, but the very suggestion chilled her. Humanity might be new to the galactic community, but they deserved protection as much as any species. On the fourth day, the humans gathered to discuss what they had learned and their growing concerns. They talk about us like we're children, whispered Sam, one of the physicists in their group. The Avorians especially treat us like we're barely sentient. Laura nodded, her military training making her naturally suspicious. We need to be careful about what technology we accept from them. She said some of these devices could be monitoring us or worse, controlling us. Natalie understood their concerns but felt torn. She believed Zyra's intentions were genuine, yet could not dismiss the obvious power imbalance between humans and the Alliance. We have 2 days left before we return to Earth. She reminded them we need to gather as much verifiable information as possible. Technology we can understand and reproduce, diplomacy we can trust. That night, unable to sleep, Natalie wandered the living corridors of the ship, finding herself in an observation area where the walls became transparent, showing the stars and Earth below. Small and blue and fragile, you cannot sleep, said Zyra's voice behind her. Natalie turned to see the Kelfarian, her skin glowing softly in the darkness. Too much to think about, she admitted. Zyra moved beside her, those galaxy eyes fixed on Earth. Your world is beautiful, she said. Most life-bearing planets are, but Earth has a particular harmony to it. Natalie studied the alien, trying to read emotions in a face so unlike her own. Why do you really want humans in the Alliance, she asked directly. Not just our creativity. There must be more. Zyra was silent for a long moment, her skin cycling through colors so subtly, Natalie almost missed it. Your species reminds us of what we once were, said the alien. Finally, before technology made us logical, before we optimized our genetics for intelligence over emotion, humans feel deeply. You create, you destroy, you love, you hate, all with an intensity most species lose as they advance. She turned those impossible eyes to Natalie. The Void Eaters consume energy, but they seem particularly drawn to the energy of conscious emotion. Feeling minds burn brighter to them than stars, we believe. This is why they hunt life specifically. Natalie felt a chill, understanding the implication. You think human emotions might be a weapon, she said. A salvation, replied Zyra. Your unpredictability, your passion. These qualities may help us understand the void in ways our logic cannot. Natalie looked back at Earth, wondering what humanity was about to step into, a war spanning galaxies. Ancient beings with agendas beyond human comprehension. And somewhere out there, creatures that fed on the very essence of life itself. The next day brought another test. The Alliance Council summoned the human delegation to witness a void incursion in a nearby uninhabited system. Through technology Natalie could not comprehend, they observed as darkness spread between the stars, consuming everything in its path. It moved with purpose. Intelligence hunting the energy of the system. Several Alliance ships approached the void using various weapons and defenses. All seemed ineffective. The darkness simply absorbed or avoided their attacks. This is a small scout group, explained Zyra. The main swarm is much larger, much more coordinated. This one will consume this system, then move on to search for more energy. Natalie watched horrified as an entire solar system was slowly devoured, planets growing cold as their energy was siphoned away. But she also observed patterns in the void movement, the way it recoiled from certain frequencies, how it seemed to communicate within itself through pulses of darkness. It has a network, she said suddenly. They talk to each other like a nervous system. The Alliance members turned to her, some with skepticism, others with interest. Explain, said Krell. The Avoria Natalie pointed to the patterns. She had noticed the way information seemed to propagate through the void entities. If they share information, they must have a mechanism. She explained something like neurons firing. They might be individual entities, but they function as a collective system. Zyra moved closer, her colors shifting rapidly. If this is true, we might disrupt their communication rather than trying to destroy them directly, she said. For the first time, Natalie saw respect in Krell's alien eyes. Humans see patterns, said the Avorian, where we have looked for thousands of years. This might be useful later as the humans prepared to return to Earth, bringing evidence and data to convince their governments of the Alliance proposal. Natalie found herself alone with Zyra again. The Kelfarian approached, holding a small device that pulsed with inner light. This is for you, said Zyra, a communication link so we may speak while your people decided. Natalie accepted the device, understanding its significance, a direct line to an alien civilization, a responsibility few humans had ever faced. Zyra placed a long-fingered hand gently on Natalie's shoulder. The first physical contact between them, we were like you once said. The Kelfarian, emotional, creative, uncertain. But you have something we lost in our advancement, something the void fears, something that might save us all. What is that? Asked Natalie. Zyra. Colors shifted to a warm gold. Hope, said the alien, simply a willingness to fight even when logic says you cannot win. This is humanity's gift to the stars. The shuttle prepared to return them to Earth. Natalie looked back at the massive Alliance vessel, knowing that humanity stood at a crossroads, evolution or extinction, with only their unique human qualities to guide them forward. The return to Earth brought chaos. Governments squabbled over the Alliance proposal. Military leaders demanded weapons technology. Religious leaders questioned the theological implications of alien life, and ordinary citizens alternated between fear and wonder. Natalie and the other 9 delegates found themselves thrust into politics far removed from their scientific backgrounds, testifying before the United Nations and various government agencies. Many refused to believe the void threat was real, suggesting it was an alien trick to subjugate humanity. We have only their word about these void eaters, argued the Russian representative at the UN Security Council. This could be a deception to acquire human resources. Natalie stood before the assembly, exhausted after weeks of debriefings and examinations. I saw the void with my own eyes, she stated firmly. The evidence we've brought back confirms their existence. The Alliance is offering protection and advancement, not conquest, but convincing. A divided world proved nearly impossible. Some nations wanted to reject the Alliance outright, while others demanded exclusive access to alien technology. The communication device Zyra had given Natalie remained silent for those first difficult weeks, making her wonder if the Alliance had abandoned humanity to its squabbling. Then one night, as she sat alone in her apartment reviewing data from the Alliance ship, the device suddenly pulsed with light. Natalie, Zyra's voice filled her mind, urgent and clear. We must speak. The device projected a hologram of the Kelfarian, her colors darker than Natalie had ever seen them. What is it? Natalie asked, alarmed by the aliens. Obvious distress. Our sensors have detected void activity at the edge of your solar system. Zyra said they should not be here, not so soon. Our projections gave your world decades, not months. Natalie's heart raced as implications crashed through her mind. Are you certain? She asked, hoping desperately for a mistake. Zyra rippled with confirmation. Scout similar to the one you observed, but larger. It moves toward your outer planets. We believe it sensed our ship during your visit and followed the energy. Trail fear gripped Natalie as she realized what this meant. Earth had no defenses against the void. No understanding of how to fight such beings. We need the Alliance now, she said, not in months or years, but now. Zyra colors shifted to what Natalie recognized as determination. Prepare your leaders, she said. We are coming to defend your system, but we need permission to enter your space in force. The Alliance respects sovereignty even in crisis. The next hours passed in frantic activity. Natalie calling government contacts, waking officials in the middle of the night trying to convey the urgency without causing panic. By morning, emergency sessions convened worldwide as leaders finally began to understand the threat was not theoretical, but immediate. Colonel Laura, now promoted to general, coordinated with military forces worldwide, preparing them for the arrival of Alliance vessels. We have no idea if our weapons will have any effect on these void entities, she told assembled military leaders from major nations, but we need to be ready to support the Alliance. However, weaken objections. Continued from some quarters accusations that the whole situation was manufactured to force Earth into the Alliance. But as astronomical observatories confirmed unusual activity near Neptune, opposition weakened. Within 48 hours, the first Alliance ships appeared in Earth orbit, massive vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had built. Gleaming with technology beyond human understanding, Zyra and a delegation of Alliance representatives met with Earth leaders at the United Nations. While defense forces deployed throughout the solar system, the Void Scout has already consumed 2 of your outer dwarf planets, said Zyra. Her colors grim. It grows stronger with each feeding. Soon it will move inward, images from Alliance sensors showed. The darkness spreading between planets, a hungry shadow consuming everything in its path. We have deployed inhibitor fields around your inner planets, said Krell, who had joined the delegation. Surprising Natalie with his presence, this will slow the void but not stop it. Earth leaders, pale and shaken, finally unified by existential threat, signed the Emergency Alliance Treaty, binding humanity to the galactic community and accepting protection. Natalie found herself appointed as Earth's liaison to the Alliance, working directly with Zyra to coordinate defense efforts. Can we evacuate if necessary? She asked Zyra privately after one particularly difficult meeting. The Kelfarian colors shifted to what Natalie now recognized as sorrow. We could save perhaps 1 million humans, she admitted. The Alliance has world ships that could sustain your people, but not your entire population. Which numbers in billions? The reality struck Natalie with brutal force. They would have to defend Earth where it stood. Evacuation was not a viable option. Over the next days, Alliance vessels established a perimeter around Earth and the inner planets. The void entity, now visible from Earth telescopes, as a spreading darkness among the stars. Natalie worked without sleep alongside scientists from around the world, studying the data Zyra provided, looking for weaknesses in the void creature. You said the void is drawn to emotion, to consciousness, she said to Zyra during a rare quiet moment. What if we use that? The Kelfarian tilted her head, curious. The void seems attracted to concentrated energy, including emotional energy. Natalie continued, what if we create a lure? Something that mimics the emotional energy of billions of minds but concentrated. Away from Earth. Alliance scientists joined the discussion, skeptical but willing to consider human intuition. It would require technology beyond your current capabilities, said Krell. But perhaps not beyond ours. The plan took shape rapidly, using Alliance technology to create what Natalie called an emotional beacon, a device that would broadcast the concentrated essence of human consciousness. Like a flare in the darkness, it would need to be powered by actual human minds, explained one of the Alliance engineers. Volunteers connected to the device, broadcasting their emotions at amplified levels. The risk to those volunteers would be substantial, warned Zyra. The void might consume their consciousness entirely. Natalie looked around at her fellow humans, seeing determination in their eyes. Ill volunteer, she said, knowing someone had to be first to ask. By nightfall, hundreds of others had joined her scientists. Soldiers, ordinary citizens willing to risk everything for a chance to save their world. The Alliance brought the beacon technology, a series of neural interfaces that would connect human minds, amplifying their emotional output and broadcasting it toward the outer system. Away from Earth, we will target Saturn's rings, said Zyra. A location far enough from Earth but with sufficient mass to interest the void. The volunteers prepared for what might be a one-way mission, boarding Alliance ships bound for the outer system, while Earth waited in tense silence. Natalie found herself in a preparation chamber, Zyra helping her connect to the neural interface. This will not be pleasant, warned the Kelfarian. Your mind will be exposed, vulnerable. Natalie nodded, understanding the risk. Why are you doing this? Asked Zira, her colors shifting in patterns. Natalie now recognized as confusion. Your logical choice would be to remain here, coordinate from safety. Natalie smiled slightly. That's the difference between our species, she said. You see the logical choice. We see the right one. I can't ask others to risk themselves if I won't do the same. Zira placed a gentle hand on Natalie's shoulder. This is why the Void fears humans. She said, this is why we need you in the Alliance. This courage beyond reason as the ships departed Earth carrying their cargo of brave volunteers. Natalie watched her home planet recede, a blue jewel in the darkness, worth any sacrifice to protect. Saturn grew large in the viewports, its magnificent rings gleaming in the distant sunlight. As the Alliance ships positioned themselves, the Void entity already visible as a spreading darkness beyond the gas giant, consuming moons and asteroids in its path. Natalie and the other volunteers were installed in specially designed chambers connected to the emotional beacon technology, alien devices attached to their temples and spines, linking their minds together. You will feel each other, said Zira, her colors gentle as she helped Natalie into the neural cradle. You will share consciousness, become a network of human emotion focused through our technology. Natalie looked around at the other volunteers' faces, determined despite their fear. General, Laura in the chamber beside her nodded encouragement. The Alliance scientists activated the systems, and suddenly Natalie gasped as her mind expanded, connecting with others, feeling their thoughts, emotions, memories flowing together like rivers joining an ocean. First there was confusion, fear, as individual identities blurred, but then something remarkable happened. Instead of losing themselves, they found a deeper connection, a shared humanity that transcended their differences. The beacon activated, drawing on this collective consciousness, broadcasting it outward, a signal of human emotion, hope, fear, determination, love, courage, all amplified and focused beyond Saturn. Through the ship's sensors they watched as the Void entity paused in its consumption of an outer moon, its darkness shifting as it sensed the new energy source. It is responding, said Krell, his voice sounding distant through the neural connection. It changes course. The Void entity accelerated, moving toward Saturn, drawn by the irresistible beacon of human consciousness, hungry for the concentrated emotions. The plan is working, said Zira, but her colors showed concern. The Void moves faster than anticipated. We may not have time to retreat, Natal. He felt the fear ripple through the connected human minds, but also determination. They had known the risks when they volunteered. As the Void approached Saturn, the Alliance ships maintained position. The human volunteers pouring more emotion into the beacon, drawing the entity away from its path toward Earth. Natalie felt herself weakening, the connection draining her energy as the Void began to feed at a distance. Drawing on the broadcast emotions without yet reaching the ships, she pushed harder, focusing her thoughts on Earth, on everything worth protecting, her family, friends, the beauty of her world, the future of humanity, all flowing into the beacon. Then she felt something unexpected, a response from the Void, not just hunger, but curiosity, as if the entity was trying to understand the emotions it consumed. It has awareness, said Natalie through the neural link. It's not just feeding, it's learning. This information rippled through the Alliance team, a revelation that changed everything. The Void entities were not mindless consumers, but conscious beings attempting to understand through consumption. Can we communicate with it? Asked General Laura, her military mind immediately seeking alternatives to destruction. The Alliance scientists adjusted the beacon, allowing more complex emotional patterns to flow outward, patterns that formed questions, concepts, ideas. The Void response changed, its darkness shifting, forming patterns that mirrored the human broadcast it is trying to communicate. Confirmed, Krell sounding astonished. In thousands of years we never attempted this. Through the neural connection, Natalie sensed a foreign consciousness, vast and cold, yet curious, touching the edges of the human network. Trying to understand the emotions it fed upon, she opened her mind, further allowing the Void entity to experience not just her emotions, but the memories and thoughts behind them, showing it images of Earth, of human connection, cooperation, love. The entity withdrew slightly, its consumption slowing as it processed. This new information, we are showing it another way, said Natalie. Understanding forming in her connected mind, it consumes because that's all it knows, but it's learning there are alternative. Hours passed as this strange communication continued, the human volunteers weakening as they maintained the connection but determined to continue, while the void entity absorbed not just energy but understanding. Then something unprecedented happened. The void began to change, its darkness becoming less opaque, more structured patterns forming within it that resembled neural networks. "It is reorganizing," said Zyra, amazement in her voice, "adapting its structure based on what it's learning from you." The void entity, slowly pulled back from Saturn, its feeding, stopped entirely as it hovered at the edge of the system, still connected to the human beacon, but no longer consuming. "We need to bring the volunteers back," said one of the Alliance doctors. "Their life signs are weakening. They cannot maintain this connection much longer." But Natalie and the others refused to break the link, sensing they were on the verge of a breakthrough understanding forming between humanity and the void. "I need to show it one more thing," Natalie told Zyra, her physical voice weak, but her mental projection strong through the beacon, focusing all her remaining strength. Natalie sent a final message to the void entity. Images of cooperation of different species working together, of energy freely shared rather than taken, of the Alliance and Earth united. The void pulsed with new patterns, its darkness shot through with threads of light as it processed this concept. Then it withdrew completely, moving away from Saturn, away from the solar system. Its structure, fundamentally, changed by contact with human minds as the Alliance ships returned to Earth. The volunteers were celebrated as heroes, though many, including Natalie, required extensive medical care, their bodies drained by the experience. "You have done something unprecedented in galactic history," said Krell to Natalie as she recovered in an Alliance medical facility. "You have not just driven away the void, you have changed." Itzira sat beside Natalie's bed, her colors warm with emotion that Natalie could now read as clearly as human expressions. "The void entity has joined with others of its kind," she said. "They are communicating in new patterns. We believe they are sharing what they learned from humans." Natalie smiled weakly, still recovering her strength. "They were lonely," she said, understanding what she had sensed from the void entity they consume, because they don't know how to connect any other way. They take energy, because no one ever showed them how to share it. In the months that followed, Earth formally joined the Alliance, a new embassy established in orbit where representatives from across the galaxy came to meet humans to study the species that had communicated with the void. Natalie, once recovered, became Earth's ambassador, working alongside Zyra to integrate human knowledge and creativity into Alliance science and strategy. The void entities did not disappear from the galaxy, but they changed their consumption patterns, became more selective, communicating with Alliance representatives through methods developed from the human beacon technology. 1 year after first contact, Natalie stood with Zyra in the Alliance Council chamber, watching as Earth was officially recognized as a protected world, a junior member of the galactic community. "Your species will advance quickly. Now," said Zyra, "with Alliance technology to guide you, in decades you will achieve what took others millennia." Natalie smiled, looking at the Kelfarian who had become both colleague and friend. "And what will we bring to the Alliance in return?" she asked. Zyra colors shifted to that warm gold that Natalie had come to associate with affection. "You already have," she said. "You have brought new perspectives, challenged old assumptions, shown even ancient species like the Avorians that there are always alternatives to be found. You have brought humanity," as they stood together watching representatives from 100 alien worlds. Natalie realized that humanity's greatest strength had never been technology or weapons, or even intelligence, but something simpler, more fundamental: empathy, the ability to feel deeply, to connect with others, to imagine new possibilities even when facing the darkness of the void. The stars had always beckoned humanity with mystery and promise. Now, humans walked among them not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers, showing even the oldest species in the galaxy new ways to see the universe. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the void entities were changing, learning from human emotions, evolving into something new, a transformation that offered hope for the entire galaxy.